Hey guys, what is up? My name is PandaMaster, and let's talk about that Outriders demo. So this demo dropped yesterday, and I actually just got done playing through the entirety of it with one class. I went with the shoot, what are they called? The Trickster class. Yeah, because that's my usual playstyle, but I plan on going back and trying out all the other classes because I really like this game so far, guys. So I'm going to get in depth into all of this stuff and talk all about it. But first things first, I want to clarify that I have dipped my toes into plenty of looter shooters, but I wouldn't necessarily describe them as my, forte or anything. I am not the person, I played through all of Destiny 2, and I played up through Shadowkeep. Haven't played the Beyond Light expansion yet, but I don't play really any Crucible, or I don't really grind all that much in Destiny. I more so play for the story, and I have a fun time with friends, that sort of thing. I've played through Borderlands. Let's see, what did I play through? I played through some of 1 and 2 and most of 3. I still have yet to finish it because my buddy and I were playing through it, and then COVID happened, and so we haven't finished it. But I just don't play a ton of them. But it's not that I don't necessarily enjoy them, but also I play a lot of different games. So really, games as a service, just commitment focused games, are not really the type of game I get into because I don't have that time commitment. But that being said, I really, really enjoy Outriders, you guys. First off, I want to talk about the story. So I really, really dig the story. It reminded me a lot of Mass Effect Andromeda, and I know that sounds like a bad thing, but one, I really enjoyed Mass Effect Andromeda. Definitely my least favorite Mass Effect game, but still a good game. But I mean so in the terms of, this is about people colonizing a new planet and finding out that it's basically a shit show. So for those that don't know, the plot is basically about these people attempting to colonize this planet after Earth has been destroyed. And, there's this anomaly, this storm that ravages the planet that incinerates some people and then gives others superpowers. And so, but there is this war being raged, and basically there's this big battle that is determining humanity's future, right? And so the demo covers about the first 3 hours. So it does the first few story missions, and you have 4 available side quests, which technically is 3 side quests, and then there's a collectible side quest where you'll encounter different areas of the world where it's this, if you go into this area, you can find a collectible that you can give to this one person in your base, and that sort of thing, where it's you get tidbits of story. So it technically is a side mission, but it's not it's categorized a little differently. And in the demo, you can replay the side missions, but I don't think you can replay those collectibles, the collectible side missions. Maybe you can. I might be wrong, but where I'm at now, I don't think you can replay those. I never actually went to that specific door, but it will list the missions available to play and or replay, and it never listed that one area as replayable. However, I never just straight up went to the door to that area and saw if could see if I could open it. So maybe you can. I don't know. But so yeah, overall it has about 3 hours worth of content. Let's see. I played for about 3.5 hours because I replayed I replayed each side mission twice, and one of them I replayed them. I played them a total of twice, and I played the first side mission a total of 3 times because I wanted to grind, because there is a level cap, and so you can get to level 7, which I just hit naturally. And then there are also world tiers, which I really, really love about this. I think this is one of the standout aspects of Outriders. I think maybe a couple games have done it before, but not a ton have. So basically, the world will level up as you continue to fight enemies. So with each enemy you kill, it further levels up the world, and you can change. They're called world tiers, and so you can change the world tiers at any time. But the higher the world tier you have, the better loot you will receive, right? And so the higher the world tier, the more difficult the enemies are, more challenging things are, but you'll also have a better chance at finding better loot. And so there's automatically a setting that once you unlock a new world tier, it like automatically sets itself to that, but you can change them at any time. So if anything's too difficult for you, you can turn it down, but you also won't have as good a chance to get better loot. There's this one side mission that has a really, really tough fight in it, which I think they kind of designed it that way as like kind of, I think it's supposed to be like the tough part of the demo, right? Like it's supposed to be like the big challenge part. And it took me forever. I probably died like 15 times, my first playthrough, and it kept like every few deaths, it would give me a little notice about world tiers. It's like, remember, you can put it down at any time. And I was like, no, I will do this. I refuse. And I did it. And then when I eventually replayed that side mission, I got on my first try. It was close, though. I had a close call, but did on my first try. And so, yeah, I really like that sort of natural progression. And then also you can scale it down at any time, too, if anything's like super challenging for you. If you just want to go about at a leisurely pace, you don't have to worry about it. And so I think it's very friendly. And I really like it. And yeah, the story's really cool. It has a lot of like RPG elements, and that you can talk to all these NPCs and figure out things with people. Like, I really like the character Eva, who is someone you meet through a side mission, and so she's a really cool character. Shira has some interesting character traits to her as well. And yeah, I'm really excited to dive back in with the different classes and see. And that's the biggest thing I don't know right now, is the difference in classes. So I can't necessarily speak to that yet. I only played with the Trickster class, which is super, super fun. So let's talk about the combat a little bit. So the combat is, I'd say a mix of Gears of War and Destiny. And so, first off, the gunplay feels super great. It basically wants you to use cover. Like it seems to pressure you to use cover a lot, but also the key to combat is aggressiveness. So the way to recover health in the game is to damage enemies, and so the whole point of the game is to be aggressive, essentially, right? And so cover doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in the game. I'm curious. The reason I don't want to necessarily condemn it just yet, because there is a long range class in the game. So I'm curious, if that's really the cover system is more tailored to that, because I felt the Trickster is a very close range character, and so really, the cover system. Sometimes it helped, like, that really difficult part. Sometimes I would seek cover. But the problem about seeking cover is that, again, the only way to recover health is to damage enemies. And you can't do that if you're hiding behind cover. And so it doesn't really do you any good. And so it is interesting. I feel like there might be a little too much reliance on the cover. Or, like, the game wants you to rely on the cover system when it doesn't really make sense for this aggro specific, this aggro styled game, essentially. But yeah, so there is that, but the combat itself feels really, really nice. I was like blasting people across the map. Some of these like pseudo magic skills I was picking up was just super, super cool. It felt really unique. Like, my whole thing was all about like slowing down enemies, and this one I would use, which I utilized really, really heavily, was basically I would teleport behind an enemy, and then I would immediately like melee them, which would then slow them down. And also that skill that teleports me, it also gives me a little bit of shielding. And so, like, if I have killed, because again, this is all about like damaging enemies as quickly as possible, essentially. At least with the class I had, right? And, it does kind of seem to be the basis of the game in general. So, I would finish off some enemies, right? And, like, there wasn't any more enemies around me, but there were still a bunch of enemies, on the map that were shooting at me from long range. So I would just use that, quickly zap over to them, and then, just cause chaos. And there was also this one that created like a field around me that would slow everybody down, including projectiles. That is super nice if there's a ton of enemies around and you're just really overwhelmed. Just pop that. There's also there was a skill that buffed my ammo, and there was another one that like did this slash, which basically like eviscerates enemies. It's really cool. But yeah, I really, really like the skills in the game. I think it's really cool. There's also these skill trees that I would love to see more of, but it's a demo, so I get it. And so basically, either like when you level up, you either get a new skill or you get a skill point to use in the skill tree, which can, give you more health, increase your resistance, that sort of stuff. Increase the effects of your like that sort of thing. But I thought it was interesting. I don't see games do this a lot, and I don't necessarily know how I definitively feel about it, but I'm like, okay, because like I said, it's either or. So every like few levels, you will unlock a new skill, and when that happens, you don't get a skill point for that tree. They're just like, nope, this is all you get. Which, I get it, and the skills are really cool, and they are like, it's really cool to experiment with them and everything. But it's like, it is a little weird. But the guns feel really, really solid. I expect nothing less from people who make Gears of War Judgment and Bulletstorm, right? So it feels really nice, and just like when you are able to very fluently connect your skills and your gunplay and all of this together and just wipe out a bunch of enemies at once, it feels so satisfying. And it's just a really satisfying game to play, and I like it a lot, to the point that I had finished everything, and like I said, I was replaying all the side missions because I wanted to max out the world tier, right? And so I was, by the time I had finished going through the campaign and all the side missions that were available to me, I had maxed out my level pretty quickly, although at a natural, like, I think when I hit level 7, I think it was during the last side mission. Like, I had unknowingly finished all the main missions, and I was doing a side mission, and it was that last side mission. It was during that, I believe, when I finally leveled up. So, in terms of, like, their level cap setting, it fit very naturally to, how much they have available to play. But the only thing is that I was still at World Tier 4, and I was like, well, that's literally the only thing I have left to do. So I'm going to get to World Tier 5. So I just replayed all the side missions until I got there. And it was a lot of fun. And, and each time you replay the side mission, you continue to get more loot. And so, for those that really like the grinding for loot, there's a lot of fun stuff there. And so I'm really excited to see more of this. I went into this like, basically not necessarily like I wasn't an Outriders hater, right? Like, I was never like, this game is going to be bad, but I was definitely worried. Any game that attempts to go into this like co-op shooter, games as a service, this sort of thing, like it is kind of almost doomed to fail. And so, if it makes it, it's massively successful, but it's just very hard to make it. And so, I was obviously like, well, we'll see. But, I really like the Trickster class. I'm excited to check out the other ones. There's also, I'm just looking here. So there's the Pyromancer, which is, I believe, yeah, they are mid-range, if I remember. Yeah, they're mid-range, and they can manipulate fire. So it seemed like they were kind of like a mage class to me, closest to that. There's the Devastator, which is the other close-range class that is more of a tank, and so he can unleash seismic attacks. And then there's the Technomancer, which seems to be like the sniper class. They're the long-range class. And so I'm excited to check out those. Like I said, I want to do that here in the future. I got plenty of time because they have no plans to take away the demo, and you can play it as much as you want. And so, yeah, I'm excited to check out the other classes and everything. But, yeah, and it's completely free, guys. So it's also got crossplay and really cool stuff. One thing I was bummed out about, there's not a lot in terms of customization. The game runs at 30 FPS right now, which I also noticed. And I didn't have any stutters that I noticed. I did notice some stuttering on the cutscenes, however, a couple times. And there's also, which I almost forgot to mention, this is kind of a big thing. the game is not polished, like, at all. There were a ton of audio issues in the game, especially, like, during the cutscenes, and really, that was about the only time I really noticed any audio issues, where it was, like, the audio mix was just downright awful sometimes, and it, like, the tracks would kind of loop over themselves sometimes, and just, it was really not well put together. But the gameplay itself was very solid, although there was sometimes, so like I said, that one skill where, you know, you appear behind an enemy, you're supposed to be facing them, but sometimes it didn't do that. Like, it didn't do that for me. It would put me behind them, but I was facing the other direction, and so I'm 90% sure that's not supposed to happen. So I think that was a bug. But, you know, I did have that happen, but otherwise, you know, I didn't really have any gameplay stuff. It just, like I said, it seemed to lack polish in terms of just, like, the cutscenes and stuff like that, because I thought it was a really beautiful game, but the cutscenes, I don't know, they just felt, like, washed out, I guess, and there wasn't a whole lot of customization options. For example, you couldn't disable motion blur. I hate that so much. But yeah, it wouldn't let me see what it was running at. I literally had to do some research. I really hope Digital Foundry does a performance review of this demo. I would really love to see that, because I'm really curious about, you know, how it runs. It felt fine for me, but it was at 30. They did say this is gonna run at 4K 60 on PS5. I believe it's running at 30 on PS4. I don't remember for sure, but it is going to run 4K 60 on PS5 and Xbox Series X. I will also clarify, I played this on PS5, and so that's my performance review, right? I think it might be at 60 on PC, the demo, but yeah, it's locked at 30 here. Love that. Not really, but, you know, again, I didn't experience any real issues in terms of, especially because there were a lot of enemies, especially in that one side mission that I was talking about that was a real challenge. You know, there was a lot going on at one time, and I didn't notice any stutter or any, you know, chugging going on from the game. Now, I am playing on PS5, but, you know, for me personally, I didn't notice any issues, so props to them for that. But it definitely does seem to lack polish. As much as I liked the story, it does kind of throw you in there a little bit, because they confirm this is the first chapter of the game, so I don't believe they've left anything out story-wise, but it does kind of seem to rush in there a little bit, which I would like to, you know, I would like to know more a little bit about what's going on, kind of, sort of. I think once we get going, like, after, like, the first hour, I think it does a good job in terms of pacing, but that first hour of the game is very much like, what is going on? There's just a bunch of stuff I'm being introduced to, and it feels a little too fast-paced. But, yeah, I think, you know, with some more time and some more polish, I think it'd be a fun time. And, yeah, I'm really excited to see where this game goes and play it on April 1st in its entirety. But let me know what you guys think of Outriders down in the comments below. Like if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys next time for whatever it is I'm doing. Alright, see ya.